Stellar Trader First Impressions. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a moron. I don't know about economics or the numbers. In fact, numbers scary. Spreadsheets are for accountants and people with organized skull meats. Me, I like easy peasy, beautiful cover girl casual stuff. I like the things that make my thinker nut go, eh. So that's why I can say that my experience with the Stellar Trader playtest was top notch. This ain't your EVE Online or Elite Dangerous here, no siree. This is a space trading sim for the masses. One that you can just sit back and relax with the pudding pop, you feel me? So why not do that? Sit back, relax, put your feet up, and take a dip into the meditative trading space sim that is Stellar Trader Breakdown. Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, Jarek Defiler here with another first impressions of a playtest I recently took part in. You know, I tend to call myself the patient gamer, as that is mostly the philosophy I partake in when it comes to the gaming industry, but as of late, all these studios have been putting out all these great playtests and demos, so I just can't help but cover newer games. Mostly in the indie scene, mind you, but new nonetheless. And I'm fairly happy with this result, as the vast majority of these playtests and demos that I experience are quite enjoyable. I find myself having a good time and not really regretting playing some of these games on release. So yeah, looks like the industry isn't a dreary post-apocalyptic California wasteland that most gaming black pillars would have you believe. Breakdown. And here we have another fine example in that of Stellar Trader. Yet another playtest my little brother got me into. Skank. Developed by one ParaVerseLab and published by Spiral Up Games, who has a pretty good track record on their published titles with a couple overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, such as Wandering Sword and Back to the Dawn, as well as many very and mostly positive titles. In fact, looks like only one of their games has mixed reviews, and that of Gordian Quest. Might want to check them out because a lot of these titles look pretty promising and right up my alley, to be honest. So yeah, seems like a fairly competent publisher here. That said, I was unable to find any info on the developer themselves, but from what I played of Stellar Trader, it seems they know what they're doing. Now, what is Stellar Trader exactly? Well, as mentioned before, it's a simple little space trading sim that finds you manning a crew on your own personal ship and traveling various systems, stopping off at a variety of space stations in order to buy low and sell high, a plethora of various goods, yeah. You build your crew from a variety of NPC options, you upgrade your ship, eventually investing in stronger, larger, faster ships that you will upgrade as well, all while building some wealth through trading and occasionally fighting off an intrusive pirate attack. It's a fairly simple gameplay loop that I found quite addictive, to be honest. Traversing the one system you get to travel around in the playtest was just an enjoyable, chill experience. With the exception of a few pirate attacks in the early game, you never really feel pressured or frustrated. The mechanics here are simply too accommodating. And you know what else is accommodating? Subscribing to my channel and liking the video. Whee! It puts a beat in my heart and a stirring in my loins. Thank you kindly. Now, when you start off, you do get a little bit of character creation. It's not anything super fancy, mind you, but you can make a somewhat unique character like Defiler here. You then head into a very unintrusive and quick tutorial that shows you the ropes and takes you to your first station, where you can then take some time to explore the different facets of what these space stations entail. It's a great intro to the game and allows you to ease into it and learn the mechanics without feeling rushed or pressured. I love this, you can just take your time with it, you know? Now, as I said earlier, the main gameplay loop is you buying low and selling high at different space stations. Each space station will have a main industry, if you will, such as agriculture or industrial. As a result, the agricultural space stations may need things like fertilizer or animal feed, whereas industrial space stations may be demanding foodstuffs. On the flip side, each station will have an abundance of their given product type, so they will sell on the cheap, which allows you to invest in them and sell them at a station that needs that product. Again, simple. But on top of that, each space station may have some unique feature with it, such as a spacecraft dealership or a casino. This is one thing I really thought was sexy with the space stations: their uniqueness. Each one has its own personality and concept that keeps them fresh and interesting. And upon first arriving at any given space station, you're given a nice skippable cinematic that shows you around the place and gives you its history and details. Really cool when you travel for quite some time across the system exploring and are graced with a nice introduction to the station like that. Just nice, you know? The presentation in this game is just great in that regard. Very immersive, but more on that later. Back to the gameplay. Woo! As you traverse from station to station, your crew will get certain negative effects. Jump stress, requiring you to decompress after being in warp speed for too long. Deep space anxiety, which you can alleviate through entertainment and rest. And lastly, biodysfunction, which requires you to use biosupplemental packs for the diarrhea. At the start, these will likely slow down your traversal, requiring you to remedy them as you will only have yourself as sole crew member. But as the game progresses and you get more crew members, you can switch off as pilot, allowing one to rest while the other takes over. When you reach a space station, you can also use their recreational facilities to alleviate these negative symptoms obtained when traversing through the bleak black void that is my soul. I mean space. Some of these methods of alleviation are little mini-games like Whack-A-Rat that you can use while in space to remedy your deep space anxiety, or the spa on a space station, which will have you do a cups minigame. But I have to be honest here, I don't care for these minigames. I think they'll likely be adjusted or outright removed come the full release, as the developers are very communicative on the Steam discussion boards and have acknowledged players' dislike of the minigames. So we'll see. But for the most part, the minigames become obsolete when you start racking in the monies because you can just do the more automated services in the recreational facilities, albeit for a pretty penny indeed, yes. And this was something I found to be very cool, the casual pacing of Stellar Trader. You never feel like you have to rush a certain upgrade or complete a certain task real quick so you can progress. You kind of just, well, play, and the game accommodates you organically. For instance, I took my time getting a new crew member and ship. I never felt I had to do it as fast as possible in order to succeed, because even with my little junker and just me piloting, I was still able to build up some capital and progress at a perfectly comfortable pace. But here's the thing, if you do want to rush a certain aspect like getting a new crew member, you can. They're always available to you basically from the start, and you just have to make sure you can pay them in the long run, which is usually a payout every 500 space hours, I believe. And speaking of crew members, there are a ton to choose from. As you travel around, each space station will have a plethora of different NPCs to talk to and build relationships with. Now, as far as I know, not all of them are available to be crew members, as some will just have orders that you can take, which are basically quests that have you bringing goods to a specific station and then giving you a big payout. These will likely be your biggest moneymakers, or at least they were for me in the playtest, but again, who knows what the full release will entail. All that said, some of the NPCs you talk to will be available to join your crew, actually most of them, really. They each will have their own likes, dislikes, and stats, and there's quite a bit of stats here. You have things like mechanics that makes them more efficient at repairing your ship, accounting, which lowers costs of space station purchases and modifications, as well as construction, because yes, you eventually build your own space stations, which sounds awesome, but that mechanic wasn't available in the playtest, unfortunately. So there's actually some depth here in how you want to build your crew. You likely would want to have a good, well-rounded group that can cover multiple bases. I, for one, had a maxed out mechanic and was building an accountant and another crew member, with me being a high intelligence and eloquence lady, making me great at gaining experience and persuading people. As stated before, you also build relationships with all the NPCs, even those not in your crew. Have to be honest, given the limitations of the playtest, I'm not 100% sure how the relationship status factors into benefiting you, but I do know they will quit if they aren't happy with your leadership. And one person on the discussion boards even had a crew member commit suicide by launching themselves out of the airlock. So there's that. But yeah, if you're familiar with my little channel, you know that I really enjoy relationship building in my video games, and as such, I'm looking forward to what the full release might entail here, as some of the devs stated that they may look into adding some more complex mechanics when it comes to the relationship department. That said, what is a crew without a ship? Your ships will actually decide how many crew members you can have. I unlocked all the ships available in the playtest, and the best ones allowed for only 3 crew member capacity. But others that weren't available for purchase in the playtest but could be viewed could get up to 5 crew member slots. And keep in mind the playtest was restricted to only the starting system, as you could not purchase the ships capable of interstellar travel. So once the full release comes out, I suspect you'll be able to get some pretty gnarly ships later on that are huge and beefy with a giant crew. And don't forget to upgrade them bad boys, as you can modify your ship's weapons, engines, shields, and whatnot based on a core capacity system. Meaning your core will have a certain number of power points it can have installed, and each modification will have a power value attributed to them. Laser weapon upgrades might cost 60 points, and shield upgrades 30 or something like that depending on the ship. Fairly simple, but very effective, as you will need these upgrades when you start traversing farther and farther distances. Or is it further and further distances? I don't know. So why not discuss that while we're here? What are the intricacies of space traversal in Stellar Trader? Let's see, most of the time you will be in warp speed. This puts you into a super fast state that also leaves you vulnerable to certain anomalies. You will be given warnings of gamma ray explosions, energy storms, Richard Simmons, pirates, and the like. The gamma rays and storms will damage your ships, engines, shields, core, weapons, and everything really, but they generally can be avoided by simply coming out of warp speed. The pirates will often pull you out of warp speed to attack though, so keep that in mind. However, the combat is very simple and straightforward. You can generally wipe out the pirates no problem so long as they're lower or similar level. But if your ship isn't properly upgraded and just a piece of crap like mine was early on, you can find yourself having some trouble when you get into some of the farther space regions and go up against higher level baddies. I must say that I really dig the warp speed sections here. I mean, you have this beautiful graphical fidelity and awesome atmosphere that is complemented by some great ambient space music, and the warp speed visuals will change depending on what spatial anomaly you're traveling through, such as antimatter or meteorite zones. It just looks beautiful and I love it. The game overall is quite the looker actually, especially when arriving at some of the space stations that are just awesome looking, such as the Stellar Energy Plant here. Just look at that beauty. Awesome and even slightly arousing. And each space station gets their own theme music, which was fun. I really enjoyed the music in the game all around, to be honest, as I think it really added to the immersive nature of the traversal and space station visuals. The game is a very immersive, atmospheric experience, I feel. Really dig that aspect, but yeah. Now, although the main gameplay loop is traveling around trading, you also got some random side events that will pop up here and there. Things like stumbling across a crashed ship you can salvage with some minor exploration and hacking or picklocking minigames. You might meet a trading vessel that will have some goods you might want, or you may have the option to investigate some rogue planet that inspires your crew with awe, thus reducing their stress and anxiety. There's a few cool little things like that that keep the gameplay loop fresh and fun, so you're not stuck just doing the same thing over and over. Okay, I've been mostly glowing about Stellar Trader up to this point, so if you couldn't tell, I really enjoyed it. But again, full disclosure, this was simply a playtest, so I cannot speak to what the full release will be like. That said, what are my criticisms? What issues did I have thus far? Well, as already stated, I think the minigames could be cut or shortened or something. The rest of the game is fairly intuitive and automated in a sense, so it's very fluid and smooth doing everything. When you stop to decompress, for example, you just take a few seconds on a timer. When you repair your engines and whatnot, it's the same deal. So when the majority of the game is that pacing, and then you're forced really early on to stop and do these minigames that take a minute or two each, it just messes with the jive, know what I mean? It just feels intrusive, like you're being interrupted. But again, this becomes moot when you get more money and better ships, because you will be zipping around the system rather fast and won't have to stop to recuperate as much, as you can just go to the recreational facilities on any given station and pay to have your crew fixed up. The cowards. Boo-hoo, can't handle some deep space travel, wee. In the early game, the pirates can be a problem, as they did wipe out my ship twice. The main reason for this though was that they would attack me right after I'd get hit by a massive electrical storm or gamma ray. So my engines, weapons, and shields would all be fried, and the pirates would immediately jump me pretty much every time. This then forces you to repair during the firefight, which can take quite some time. The problem is, when your engines are out, you can't move. When your shields are out, your hull takes damage, which is basically your health pool. And when your weapons are out, you can't shoot back. Woo! This then leaves you a sitting duck that just gets pummeled into oblivion until you repair your stuff. So, pro tip, always repair the weapons first, as you likely are able to take out the pirates really fast with them, then repair your shields, then engine, and everything else after that. However, like I said before, this isn't so much a problem when you come out of warp speed during an anomaly, or if you have a heavily upgraded ship that can just melt the pirates while taking very little damage itself. But if you don't know that going in, you can have a frustrating time with the pirates attacking right after your handicap. But once you figure it out, they're no problem at all, really. Keep in mind, combat isn't the focus of Stellar Trader. Trading is. Big surprise, right? The main game is you managing your ship and crew and your trades. That's the focus, and quite frankly, the most fun bit in my sensually humble opinion. A good quality of life addition that could add into this fun is to show which stations in the current system you reside has demand for which goods when you're trading in the commodities exchange, which is basically each station's store where you buy and sell items. As it is now, there's quite a few stations that all have their own demands and abundances. Abundances? I don't know. So you kind of have to make some notes or do a spreadsheet for those engineers out there. Or if you're a lazy skank like me, you have to exit out of the commodities exchange to bring up the system map so you can check each individual station to see what they're demanding. Over time, you begin to learn who needs what, but a simple tooltip in the commodities exchange displaying which station has a high demand for any given item would be stellar. See what I did there? Another issue I had is not fully understanding how the NPCs interact with the game's world. At first I thought they were all set to their own dedicated space station, but then each time I arrived to said station, the NPC pool seemed to be different. New ones came in, and it seems some of the old ones just vanished. Can't confirm this 100% though. But if you were trying to find a specific NPC to join your crew or something, it's unclear if you can hunt them down on a specific station, or if their placement is randomized. Given the plethora of NPCs on each station, it was hard to keep track, so can't say I tested this out to the fullest. Just something worth noting, I suppose. Now, although I do enjoy the gameplay loop, I'm not sure how well it will hold up in the long run if that's all the game has to offer. Even a casual gamer like me needs more to keep me playing for, say, 100 plus hours. But given the amount of star systems shown on the map, I would assume there is much more involved than what we were granted in the playtest. I would think there would be more unique events and pirates as well, given we see that they do have varying levels and strengths. So I'm not exactly worried about the game being stale in that regard, but it's still healthy to be cautious, I would say, know what I mean? Lastly, the missile launcher is the most expensive weapons upgrade in the playtest, but it just felt bad to use, man. The upgraded lasers were far superior in my opinion. The missiles are just too slow to lock on and take multiple hits to kill a pirate, so you could destroy 3 ships with lasers in the time the missiles would kill like 1. However, I believe they can lock onto multiple pirate ships at once, but I didn't test this out and I still don't think it was very good regardless. Too slow, too clunky, too little damage. The devs acknowledged this as well in the Steam discussion, so maybe they'll tweak them a bit on full release. Hope they do. So yeah, Stellar Trader, ladies and gentlemen. This fantastic playtest that I just had a blast with. The full version, or I suppose at the very least early access, is scheduled to be released in 2026. I clocked in 43 hours on the playtest. Granted, I do tend to leave my games running while I do other things, so the time is much less than that, but I still put in a lot more hours than I expected, and as a result, Child Protective Services took away my daughter due to neglect. So, if that's not a glowing first impressions, I don't know what is. But I must stress that Stellar Trader is a space trading sim for the casual gamer. This is not a complex game. This is an X4 or Elite Dangerous. I finished with over $1 million in the bank and the best ships available, and it was fairly easy. Why I can make millions in games and nothing in real life, I'll never know. Meh. Anyways, this game was clearly designed to be a much more chill experience, and that is something I infinitely appreciate, as that is precisely what I was looking for in a space trading sim. So keep that in mind if Stellar Trader is something you want to dabble in. Thanks for watching my funky little first impressions video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so kind. Help me pump up them numbers. Also, be sure to check out my other videos as I've covered quite a few newer and older patient gaming titles as of late. This has been Jarek Defiler, taking part in a titillating yet relaxing space economy. You all have a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night, depending on where you are. And go trade some goodies in the void, yeah.